Xenoanthropologist ZYX, for 27 adjusted their light-sensitive membranes as they recorded their latest observations from the Human Galactic Alliance research station. The subject of today's study had initially seemed mundane, the placement and design of human workspaces. However, like many aspects of human behavior, what appeared simple on the surface revealed layers of fascinating complexity. Observation Log, Cycle 247. The humans have once again refused my perfectly logical suggestion to relocate their primary workspace to the underground levels, ZYX dictated to their neural recorder. Despite the superior temperature regulation and protection from external elements, they insist on maintaining offices with these large transparent barriers they call windows. Through one such window, ZYX observed Dr. Marcus Wright, the station's lead botanist, deliberately moving his desk closer to the streaming rays of their local star. The behavior made no logical sense. The artificial illumination in the facility was calibrated to optimal working conditions. Dr. Wright, ZYX called out, their translator vibrating with curiosity, your current positioning places your visual displays at risk of glare interference. Would you not prefer to maintain optimal viewing conditions? Marcus looked up from his work, squinting slightly as he smiled. The facial expression that humans insisted conveyed pleasure still unnerved ZYX slightly. Sometimes optimal isn't what we need, ZYX. Sometimes we just need a bit of real sunshine to keep us going. This concept of real sunshine versus artificial light continued to perplex ZYX. Their species had evolved on a tidally locked planet, where the concept of cyclical day and night didn't exist. The constant radiation shield protecting their civilization meant that direct stellar radiation was something to be avoided, not sought out. Yet here was another example of humans deliberately exposing themselves to their star's radiation, even when perfectly good alternatives existed. ZYX had documented similar behavior across multiple human habitats, the mysterious morning coffee by the window ritual, the inexplicable practice of sunbathing, and the constant rearrangement of furniture to follow light patterns throughout their artificial day cycle. But surely, ZYX persisted, their epidermis shifting to a deeper shade of purple in confusion, the energy output is identical. Our measurements confirm this. Marcus chuckled, a sound ZYX had learned indicated amusement rather than distress. It's not about the energy output, my friend. It's about connection. That sunshine has traveled 93 million miles just to reach us. It's touched the clouds, warmed the earth, grown our food. It's part of who we are. ZYX's neural network buzzed with activity as they processed this information. Humans often attributed significance to natural phenomena that transcended mere practical considerations. Their evolution under a dynamic star system had clearly influenced not just their biology but their psychology in ways ZYX was only beginning to understand. The research station's daily cycle continued, and ZYX observed as humans throughout the facility engaged in what they called sun-seeking behavior. Lieutenant Rodriguez deliberately took her exercise routine to the observation deck during peak illumination hours. Chief Engineer Thompson insisted on having his lunch break coincide with what he called the perfect sunny spot in the station's arboretum. Most puzzling of all was the collective excitement that erupted when a gap appeared in the persistent cloud cover that had been blocking direct sunlight for the past 7 local rotations. Productivity dropped by 23% as humans throughout the station found excuses to visit areas with external visibility. It appears, ZYX recorded in their final notes for the cycle, that humans have developed a complex social and emotional relationship with their star that goes beyond mere biological dependence. Further study is required to understand the full implications of this solar obsession on human society and development. As ZYX prepared to end their observation period, they noticed something unusual. Their own epidermis had shifted to align with a stray beam of sunlight that had found its way into their research pod. For a moment, they experienced an unexpected sensation of warmth that seemed to penetrate beyond the physical. Perhaps, they reflected, there was more to this solar fascination than mere human peculiarity. Perhaps the very thing that made it seem so illogical was what made it worth studying, and maybe, just maybe, worth experiencing for oneself. The sun continued its arc across the station's view, and somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a xenoanthropologist began to understand why humans couldn't help but follow its path. The Great Indoor Garden Mystery. ZYX 427's epidermis rippled with confusion as they observed the latest peculiarity in human behavior. In every available corner of the research station, humans had begun what they termed Project Green Haven, an initiative to create miniature ecosystems in the most improbable locations. Observation Log, Cycle 248, the humans have now installed what they call grow lights in 17 additional locations throughout the station, ZYX recorded, their neural pathways still trying to process the logic. These artificial light sources attempt to replicate specific wavelengths of their home star, despite our station already providing adequate illumination for basic biological functions. The project's leader, Dr. Isabella Martinez, had transformed her laboratory into what she called a slice of Earth. Hanging gardens cascaded from ceiling fixtures, while vertical hydroponic systems lined the walls. Most puzzling to ZYX were the arrays of specialized lights that mimic different phases of Earth's daily solar cycle. You see, ZYX, Dr. Martinez explained while adjusting a panel of lights that bathed her tomato plants in a purple glow, it's not just about providing light. These plants evolved over millions of years under very specific conditions. They expect certain light frequencies at certain times. They dance to Earth's rhythms, even here in space. ZYX's analytical tendrils curled in contemplation. But surely, Doctor, this level of complexity is unnecessary for basic nutrition synthesis. Our algae farms produce adequate sustenance with 73% less energy expenditure. Isabella's laughter echoed through the garden chamber. Oh, ZYX, if we only wanted nutrition, we'd just stock up on nutrient paste. This is about bringing life, bringing Earth with us wherever we go. Watch this. She gestured to a young ensign who had been looking particularly homesick lately. The human entered the garden chamber, and ZYX's sensors detected an immediate change in their biochemical readings. As the ensign sat in a patch of artificial sunlight among the growing things, their stress indicators notably decreased. Fascinating, ZYX murmured, their data processors working overtime. The psychological impact appears to extend beyond mere nutritional benefits. Throughout the station, similar transformations were taking place. Lieutenant Commander Jackson had converted an unused storage pod into what he called a sunshine room, complete with full-spectrum lighting and plants from his hometown in Georgia. The medical bay now featured therapeutic light gardens where patients could recover under the gentle glow of artificial daylight. Most intriguing were the morning gatherings that had spontaneously formed in these spaces. Humans would arrive before their duty shifts, clutching their caffeine beverages, and simply sit among the growing things under the artificial sunlight. They called it charging their batteries, though ZYX's scans detected no actual energy transfer taking place. The humans appear to be creating a complex network of artificial ecosystems, ZYX noted in their research log. Each space is carefully crafted to mimic specific terrestrial environments, complete with corresponding light patterns. The effort invested in maintaining these spaces far exceeds their practical utility. Yet as ZYX continued their observations, patterns began to emerge. These weren't just gardens, they were bridges between the humans and their distant home. Each carefully cultivated beam of artificial sunlight, each thriving plant, served as a reminder of the world they'd left behind. The station's chief psychologist, Dr. Patel, provided additional insight during their weekly research consultation. Humans are adaptable, he explained, tending to a small herb garden in his office. But we also need connections to our roots. These gardens, these artificial sunbeams, they're not just about growing plants. They're about growing hope, about maintaining our connection to Earth even as we reach for the stars. ZYX found themselves spending increasing amounts of time in these garden spaces, their sensors recording the subtle changes in light throughout the artificial day cycle. They noticed how humans would orient themselves towards the light sources, much like the plants they tended. Both species, it seemed, were dancing to rhythms encoded in their very being. As the observation cycle drew to a close, ZYX made a final entry. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of human indoor gardens is not their attempt to recreate natural conditions, but rather their success in creating something entirely new, a hybrid space where technology and nature, artificial and natural light, human ingenuity and primal instinct all coexist in harmony. In their private quarters that evening, ZYX found themselves adjusting their own illumination settings to match the gentle rhythm of the garden chambers. Something about that pattern, that dance of light and shadow, spoke to something deeper than scientific observation. It spoke of home, of hope, and of the strange beauty of human persistence in creating warmth and light in the coldest, darkest corners of space. Basking behaviors and social implications. Observation log, Cycle 249, I have witnessed what may be the most perplexing human behavior yet, ZYX, for 27 recorded, their sensory membranes still trying to process the scene before them. The humans have converted Observation Deck C into what they call a beach simulation zone, complete with imported sand and enhanced UV lighting. They are now engaging in the ritualistic practice of sunbathing. The deck had been transformed. Artificial heat lamps created pockets of warmth that mimicked a tropical climate. The vast viewing windows had been programmed to filter the stark light of space into something more reminiscent of Earth's atmosphere. Most bewildering of all were the humans, deliberately arranging themselves on synthetic fiber mats to expose their skin to this artificial sunlight. Commander Raj Kumar, the station's operations chief, noticed ZYX's confusion. "Come to enjoy some beach time?" he asked, adjusting what he called sunglasses, protective gear that seemed to defeat the purpose of seeking light in the first place. "I confess, Commander, I find this activity difficult to categorize," ZYX responded, their epidermis shifting to a puzzled shade of blue-green. "You create artificial warmth, only to regulate it with cooling systems. You seek light, only to shield your eyes from it. You expose your skin to radiation, then apply protective substances. The contradictions are numerous." Raj laughed, a sound that still fascinated ZYX with its complex harmonics. "I suppose it does seem pretty weird from the outside. But humans have always had a special relationship with the sun. It's not just about the vitamin D or the tan, it's about the feeling of being embraced by warmth, about connecting with something primal." Around them, other crew members were engaged in various sun-seeking behaviors. Dr. Yuki Tanaka was reading what she called a beach novel, literature apparently specifically designed for consumption in this environment. Lieutenant Maria Santos was applying a substance she called sunscreen, while explaining to a junior officer about the importance of getting some color, but not too much. The social dynamics were particularly intriguing. Humans who normally maintained professional distances were engaging in more relaxed interactions. Work-related discussions seamlessly blended with personal conversations, all while the participants remained in various states of repose under the artificial sun. It appears, ZYX noted in their supplementary observations, that this sunbathing serves multiple functions beyond the purely physiological. It acts as a social lubricant, a stress reduction technique, and a form of cultural bonding. The phenomenon wasn't limited to the beach simulation zone. ZYX had documented numerous instances of humans going out of their way to position themselves in natural light patches throughout the station. During meal breaks, there was subtle but definite competition for tables near windows. Even in the midst of important tasks, humans would unconsciously drift toward sunlit areas like phototropic organisms. The really interesting thing, Chief Medical Officer Dr. James Wilson explained during a consultation, is how this behavior crosses all cultural boundaries. Every human civilization has some form of sun worship or solar significance in their history. Even now, with all our technology and understanding, we're drawn to sunlight like moths to a flame. ZYX's research was interrupted by an unexpected event. A solar flare from a nearby star created a spectacular light show visible from the station's windows. The response from the human crew was immediate and collective. Within minutes, the observation decks were crowded with humans pressing close to the reinforced windows, their faces illuminated by the cosmic display. "Look at that," breathed technical specialist Aisha Rahman, her face glowing in the stellar light. "No matter how far we come from Earth, we're still children of the sun, aren't we?" The comment triggered a cascade of new connections in ZYX's neural network. Perhaps this wasn't just about light or warmth or social behavior. Perhaps this seemingly irrational obsession with sunlight was a thread that connected humans to their origins, a reminder of where they came from and who they were. As the cycle drew to a close, ZYX made one final entry: human relationship with solar radiation appears to be far more complex than initially theorized. Their star-seeking behavior seems to satisfy not just physical needs, but deep psychological and social ones as well. The practice of sunbathing, while superficially puzzling, may serve as a crucial link to their evolutionary past and a cornerstone of their cultural identity. In an unexpected development, ZYX found themselves lingering in the beach simulation zone after completing their observations. There was something oddly compelling about the way the artificial sunlight created patterns on their photosensitive membrane. Perhaps, they reflected, some behaviors didn't need to be fully understood to be appreciated. Weather warriors. Observation log, cycle 250, the station's atmospheric simulators are malfunctioning, ZYX, for 27 recorded, watching with fascination as humans reacted to the unexpected changes in their artificial environment. Rather than displaying distress at this technical failure, the humans appear to be celebrating. The environmental control system had begun generating unexpected weather patterns within certain sections of the station. Instead of the usual stable conditions, corridors and common areas were experiencing what humans called microclimates. Some sections had increased humidity and reduced lighting, creating what they referred to as rainy day conditions. "This is amazing," exclaimed environmental engineer Olivia Chen, her face lit with excitement as she stood beneath a particularly gloomy patch of artificial sky. "It feels just like Seattle in November." She had actually brought out something called an umbrella, a portable shelter device that seemed entirely unnecessary within a space station. ZYX's confusion deepened when they noticed that different humans sought out different atmospheric conditions. While some gravitated toward the artificially gloomy areas, others complained about the lack of direct light and huddled in the remaining sunny spaces. "You have to understand," explained Dr. Alberto Ramirez, the station's meteorological specialist, "humans evolved to deal with changing weather patterns. We're not meant to live in constant, unchanging conditions. These variations, even artificial ones, feel natural to us." The malfunctions had triggered an unexpected wave of what humans called weather nostalgia. Crew members shared stories of their favorite weather conditions back on Earth. Some spoke longingly of storms and lightning, others of fog and mist, and still others of crystal-clear sunny days. Most puzzling was the humans' reaction to the announcement that the system would be repaired within 48 hours. There was a distinct undercurrent of disappointment in their responses. Observation update, ZYX noted, humans appear to have a paradoxical relationship with weather variations. They simultaneously complain about and yearn for atmospheric irregularities. The situation became even more interesting when the station passed through the shadow of a nearby gas giant, creating an effect similar to what humans called an eclipse. The response was immediate and station-wide. Crew members abandoned non-essential tasks to gather at observation windows, their faces pressed against the transparent barriers like excited juveniles. Captain Elena Rodriguez organized an impromptu eclipse party in the main observation lounge. Humans gathered to watch the massive shadow approach, sharing stories of eclipses they had witnessed on Earth and discussing the cultural significance of such events in various human societies. In ancient times, Professor Michael Chang, the station's cultural historian, explained to the gathered crowd, eclipses were seen as powerful omens. Some cultures saw them as signs of divine discord, others as moments of cosmic harmony. Even now, knowing exactly what causes them, we still feel that sense of awe. ZYX observed as humans documented the event with imaging devices, composed poetry about the interplay of light and shadow, and even performed impromptu musical pieces inspired by the celestial display. Their behavioral patterns shifted subtly during the eclipse, voices lowered, movements became more deliberate, as if they were participating in some ancient ritual. Perhaps most remarkable, ZYX recorded, is how these varying light conditions affect human social dynamics. Shared experiences of weather phenomena, even artificial ones, seem to strengthen group bonds and trigger collective emotional responses. The station's psychologist, Dr. Emily Harrison, provided additional insight during an informal interview. "Humans are storytelling creatures," she said, watching the eclipse through specialized filters. "Weather gives us a shared narrative, a common experience to rally around. Even here in space, we're finding ways to maintain that connection with the natural rhythms we evolved with." As the eclipse ended and the station's systems were gradually restored to normal, ZYX noticed something unexpected in their own responses. They had developed a strange appreciation for these atmospheric variations, these plays of light and shadow. The constant, regulated conditions they had always preferred now seemed somehow lacking. Final observation for Cycle 250, ZYX recorded, "Human adaptability extends beyond mere survival. Their ability to find joy and meaning in changing conditions, even potentially adverse ones, may be one of their most remarkable traits." Their celebration of atmospheric variations appears to be not just a cultural artifact but a fundamental aspect of their species' relationship with their environment. In their private quarters that evening, ZYX found themselves adjusting their environmental controls to create subtle variations in light and atmosphere. Perhaps, they reflected, there was something to be learned from this human appreciation for change, this ability to find beauty in the unpredictable dance of light and shadow across the cosmos. Learning to see the light. Final research log, Cycle 251. After extensive observation of human solar-related behaviors, I find myself reaching unexpected conclusions. ZYX 427 recorded, their epidermis shifting through thoughtful patterns of iridescence. What began as a study of seemingly irrational behaviors has revealed something far more profound about the human species. The observation deck was quiet this cycle, with only a few crew members present. Through the vast windows, Earth's sun was visible as a distant point of light. Even at this remove, ZYX noticed how the humans' eyes were drawn to it, like biological compass needles finding true north. "Your research is concluding then?" asked Captain Elena Rodriguez, joining ZYX at the window. The human commander had been an invaluable source of insights throughout the study. "Yes, though I find my conclusions are not what I expected," ZYX responded, their translator humming with subtle harmonics of uncertainty. "I came to study what I thought was a peculiar obsession. Instead, I found something that appears to be fundamental to human nature." Around them, the station hummed with life. In the hydroponics bay, Dr. Martinez was conducting her daily check of the light cycles for each plant species. In the recreation area, crew members were gathering for their morning sun salutations, a series of movements that ZYX had learned was an ancient practice predating space travel. "When your species first ventured into space," ZYX continued, "did you not consider evolving beyond your dependence on solar rhythms? Adapting to the darkness between stars?" The captain's laugh was gentle. "That's very much a non-human way of thinking, ZYX. We don't see our connection to the sun as a dependence to be overcome. It's part of our heritage, our story. Every cell in our bodies carries the memory of 4 billion years of dancing with our star." Throughout the station, ZYX had observed countless manifestations of this dance. The careful recreation of Earth's day-night cycle. The celebration of solstices and equinoxes, even in deep space. The way humans described emotions using solar metaphors, bright moods, dark thoughts, sunny dispositions. "I've noticed," ZYX offered, "that even your art and music seem influenced by solar patterns." "Exactly." The captain gestured to a painting hanging nearby, an abstract representation of a sunset over an alien world. We carry the sun in our imagination. It shapes how we see everything, even on worlds orbiting different stars. As if to illustrate her point, a group of junior officers passed by, discussing plans for the upcoming Summer Solstice Festival, a station-wide celebration that would recreate traditional Earth summer celebrations. Their enthusiasm for this artificial recreation of a natural phenomenon had initially seemed illogical to ZYX. Now, it felt like something else entirely, a testament to human resilience and creativity. Perhaps, ZYX recorded in their notes, what appears to be an obsession is actually a sophisticated cultural adaptation. Humans have not just survived their relationship with their star, they have woven it into the very fabric of their civilization. The research station passed into the shadow of a nearby moon, and ZYX observed the subtle shifts in the human's behavior, the slight adjustments in posture, the unconscious gathering in lit areas, the way conversations became more intimate in the dimmer light. Even here, thousands of light-years from Earth, they moved to rhythms set by their distant sun. Final analysis, ZYX dictated, their epidermis glowing softly in the starlight. Human solar behavior represents not a weakness or an irrational obsession, but rather a remarkable evolutionary success story. They have taken their dependence on a single star and transformed it into a source of strength, inspiration, and cultural identity that allows them to thrive even in the darkness between stars. As ZYX prepared to conclude their research assignment, they made one last observation. In their own quarters, they had begun to appreciate the subtle play of light and shadow. Their previously static environmental settings now cycled gently through patterns inspired by Earth's day-night rhythm. Perhaps, they recorded in a personal addendum, the true discovery of this research is not just understanding human solar behavior, but recognizing that there are many ways to dance with the stars. The humans have not just taught me about their relationship with their sun, they have shown me a new way to see light itself. The station continued its orbit around the distant star, carrying its cargo of humans and aliens, all of them learning, in their own ways, to appreciate the eternal dance of light and shadow that had shaped human evolution. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a xenoanthropologist began to understand that sometimes the most profound scientific discoveries come not from observing differences, but from recognizing the universal rhythms that connect all living things to the stars that birthed them.